Hello, my friends. My name is Baroness Sophia the Orange, and I'm here to talk to you about Commedia dell'arte and why it matters in the SCA. Now, I'm going to start not from the beginning because there are a number of intro to Commedia classes out there, many of whom are on recordings that you can see anytime. My purpose today is to share with you my thoughts on why Commedia matters in the SCA after you've already been a little familiar with it. So why bother listening to me? Well, I have been obsessed with Commedia for about 22 years. And starting in the year 2000 at Penzig, when I met some members of the troupe I Sebastiani out of Boston, I became deeply in love with the art of Commedia dell'arte. I've always loved theater, and this was a particularly beautiful moment where I found where I'm happiest. So Commedia has been my hobby for a long time. I built 3 Commedia troupes: I Scandali in the Mid-Realm, I Firenze in the Kingdom of Atlantia, and the Commedia All-Stars troupe at Penzig that meets once a year at Penzig War and does great shows once a year. I also wrote this book, The Complete Anachronist, volume 173. And I did that with some friends as a companion to this one from my friend Dina Ternello, Mistress Lucetta di Cosimo. And these two are available from sca.org, and they are everything you need to start learning about Commedia. So I'm going to encourage you to go to sca.org and get these. They're very inexpensive. And I tell you, we wrote them for the sake of giving people, anybody out there who wants to know, a really good start on the history and mechanics of Commedia, bringing it to life and understanding where it came from. And the bibliographies in the back are gold. So a lot you can do from here. And this is just a summary of why what I'm telling you today matters at all. I believe deeply that Commedia has a very special place in the SCA, and it's only growing. Now, Commedia is 16th century Italian comedy improvised theater. And so it is especially beloved to those of us who like the Italian Renaissance period. Now, things about it, just to keep you up to speed, that matter, that make Commedia Commedia. We use stock characters that are very much like archetypes, like the nasty old man or the deeply in love young person. It also uses masks that are very cartoony, and also extreme physical acting. So the actors are very much like cartoons. And it also encourages the use of music, acrobatics, poetry, as well as slapstick, lowbrow humor. So the key is that it's improvised. It does not use scripts like a Shakespeare play or Moliere. These stories are called scenarios, and the actors use improvisation skills to convey the plot points in each scene to the audience. Now, this allows for extraordinary flexibility with the people, with the material, with the characters, and also customizing it to your local group. So there's a lot of flexibility in there that you just don't get with Midsummer Night's Dream or Romeo and Juliet. Now, those are wonderful. I dearly love Shakespeare, and his contemporaries are also extraordinarily fun to produce. But Commedia is special in the SCA because it's so flexible. Now, other things about Commedia that I think are important in terms of understanding why we should even bother recreating it, besides just it's silly fun. First of all, this was the first time when women were really welcomed on the stage. Women were a big part of what made Commedia successful. So women and men are absolutely equal in this art, in history. Women were made to be the attractive thing, bringing people in, bringing the audience in, because it was new. It was new and kind of risky. So women, being the amazing creatures they are, were an attractive piece of why people bothered to stop in the marketplace and watch a Commedia show happening. Also, along with the Italian Renaissance, the stories told in theater were no longer just about Bible stories and no longer just about what the church wanted to teach people. It also now included stories about real people, average people, normal people that would be your neighbors, other merchants, people who were soldiers, people who were having children and just wanting those children to grow up and get married and be happy. So these stories were now much more about ourselves rather than just the legends taught by the church. Now, also, the improvisation that I just talked about and the flexibility was what made Commedia really useful 400 years ago. It is so flexible that a troupe could put together a show and then travel around all sorts of different cities and get a lot of mileage, literal mileage, out of the same work. This allowed people to really make a living as an actor. Also, it allowed these troupes to have a little more flexibility with not writing down exactly what they were going to say, so nobody could censor them ahead of time. So there's all sorts of reasons why Commedia was successful in the Italian Renaissance. A lot of it is around the improvisation and the flexibility of it. And that is no more true than in the SCA. In the SCA, we are a crazy, wacky bunch of volunteers. And so this form of entertainment really works well for us. And I think it even works better than scripted plays like Shakespeare and Moliere and all sorts of great guys out there. So this is period entertainment. Commedia dell'arte was in its golden age of eruption in the middle to late 1500s. So it's right there within our late period of SCA study. So if you're looking for period entertainment, this is a great option. It adds to our environment where music, both instrumental and vocal, is very, very popular, and they can work very well together. Adding in music and poetry is an excellent part to enhance your Commedia play. Now, also, these plays can be super flexible. You can put together a little skit, a little piece of Commedia characters talking to each other and doing a little thing that's 5 minutes that can fit into any bardic circle, that can fit into any sort of activity that you want to put entertainment into. It could be before court. It can be flexible so that if court is running, late or something needs to be filled in, Commedia actors can come up and present a little bit of entertainment. You can also go the other way and make it a 90-minute long play with 3 acts or 5 acts. And as long as the actors are good and the story is engaging, you'll have people rolling in the aisles for hours. Now, another reason why it works really well in the SCA is a lot of people find it very difficult to memorize lines. I have a hard time memorizing lines. It takes time. And even people who are good at memorizing lines will tell you it takes time and effort. So some people, plenty of people, find it easier to improvise the lines and instead practice their skills of improvising so that they can do less rehearsal time and still produce entertainment that is funny and meaningful to the audience. Another thing I'll tell you is it actually can be done to switch around characters if an actor goes missing. so you don't have the same problem if your Romeo all of a sudden gets sick and nobody's around to play Romeo. Honestly, I've done that a few times and it's really fun. It heightens the excitement for the actors, and you can be flexible enough with the story that another character can take over somebody's plot points if they happen to be missing. Or you can also go the other way and add people. Let's say you've got another couple of people who want to join the play. You can add some parts. Adding another pair of lovers is always a lot of fun. Adding another servant in can be done. The scenarios are so flexible. You can squeeze and expand the cast in order to fit whoever wants to come play. So another thing I think is very important is in the SCA, we're all volunteers. We're all just doing this for fun. And giving somebody an opportunity to play some theater and play a character that really means something to them, that's very important. So if somebody really wants to play the young, sweet lover, they get to do that. It's not like there's just one Juliet character and only one girl in high school gets to play her. You can have multiples of these characters. You can share them around and do the same play multiple times with different actors doing different parts. There's so much flexibility that somebody who wants to play a particular character absolutely can do it. There's not the same kind of cutthroat competition as you might find in other productions of scripted plays. Now, there's also another thing I love about customizing these scenarios for Scadians. We can refer to each other and make inside jokes as much as we want to, and it's easy to throw them in. One of my favorite examples is a long time ago, back in the mid-realm, my dear friend, Mistress Drea de Pellegrini, was in the audience, and she's famous for making costumes, all sorts of clothing, and she was particularly famous for making really well done corsets. So we threw in a joke that said somebody's going to meet somebody else at Mistress Drea's corset shop, where everything is half off. So it was a cute, funny joke, and we got to make a reference to our friend in the audience. We've also had walk-on parts where somebody wants to just play a little tiny piece and have a walk-on. You can add that in. We did that with the King of Atlantia a few times, and we even took time to auction off the role of the King of Atlantia once, and we raised some money for the Royal Travel Fund. It was a lot of fun, and you can throw these little bits and pieces in without changing the story. It's also a great opportunity to play with other performers, musicians, poets, and other artists that like to collaborate. Adding them in as part of the play can be done also as intermezzi, which is the performance in the middle in an intermission. One of the things lovers in a Commedia scenario will often have is a tutor in painting or poetry or singing. So one of your actual poets or musicians could serve as a tutor and fit them into the play that way. So there are so many ways that we can customize Commedia scenarios to enhance our SCA experience, that I think it's really important to take what Commedia is and what the SCA is and bring them together. You can't really flex like that with Shakespeare. You can a little, there's some stuff that you can do, but I think that Commedia dell'arte really lends itself to that kind of fun. So my name is Sophia the Orange, and you can get me at my email address, which is orangesophie, Sophie, all one word, at gmail.com. And I also encourage you to take a look at my Commedia Troops webpage for references and a starter kit on all sorts of things to get started with Commedia, including links to the Complete Anachronist. So that webpage is www.efirenzi, that's IFIRENZI, efirenzi with an I on the end, .com. So thank you for coming to my TED Talk.